transforming to grow your business? Skills Future has various programs and schemes to help you level up. Tap on the skills framework and determine key skills areas to optimize your manpower development plans. Find information on sectors, career pathways, job roles, and research available training programs to obtain new skills. Organize a free Skills Future advice workshop for employees at your office to identify their training needs and the relevant training programs required. Get $10,000 Skills Future Enterprise credit to lower your out-of-pocket expenses by offsetting costs of training and other transformation initiatives. Tap on the National Centre of Excellence for Workplace Learning Program, or NACE, to learn how to retain and grow knowledge and skills at the workplace. The experts at NACE will identify issues and provide customized training solutions. The SG United Jobs and Skills Package builds talent pipelines for you. You can also tap on the Skills Future work-study programs to access local graduates. Join a Skills Future Queen Bee network and be part of a learning community to grow your business capabilities as you transform. For information on the full suite of initiatives, visit the Enterprise portal for jobs and skills or email enterprise_engage@ssg.gov.sg today.
Skills Future Skills Framework was actually added into our e-learning platform. I think the first most immediate help to me was that now I can actually have a view of what kind of skills that I need.
After almost 10 years of not studying, it was definitely difficult. What we learn in school is not exactly the same as what we do at work.
Working in Crimson Logic for 10 over years, I felt the need to try something new, but that also means I need to start from scratch.
It is through this knowledge that helped our company get through the pandemic as we reinvented our business model through a digital platform.
Due to COVID, we were very inclined to follow what the country wants us to do. In terms of managing the business, we were constantly evaluating and thinking of ways to shorten our processes. And also with additional funding from SSG, we did even more to further equipping ourselves in all aspects to be more efficient and also provide better quality service.
When they first told me that there was an e-learning platform, I think it was quite surprising. At that point in time, there was only product information within the platform itself. But in terms of skills and all that, I would say it's quite limited on the e-learning platform.
As we found out about the framework through SSG and the NTUC Union, we actually make the whole e-learning platform more complete. We used to have some blind spots. We didn't know that some of the courses are important, some of the skill set we forget to impart. And because of the framework, we make sure everything is there.
We recognize that the downtime can be a little daunting for employers, especially when the entire process is rather time-consuming. But I see it as just how machines require periodic maintenance to operate at its maximum efficiency. If you look at skills development the same way, in the long run, I say it's truly worth it.
One of the initiatives that our company has invested in is that of the conversion programs.
During my mid-career switch, the company have given me an opportunity to take a computer forensic course. This course given me a wide knowledge of what is really a computer forensic means to me. This is where I take the course during my free times, and at the same time I was given job training for my own career or my own path. I need to advance. If we still stay at the same levels of learning or understanding, we will not gain more, to learn more, to get more skill knowledge.
So I attended the Developer Foundation training course. It allowed me to acquire useful skills in digital marketing. We transformed into a digital business, and all our products and services are much more accessible than before.
Eventually, we saw the impact it had on the company, how we were better able to hold meetings, better able to use systems. We can see a result on the bottom line as well.
The skills framework has helped us in terms of our business direction, and especially in terms of the skill set needed going forward.
We have people who left the company come back talking about how in terms of opportunities to learn, to grow, it's much better here compared to companies out there.
It is imperative for employees, young and old alike, to actively seek for ways on how to improve their knowledge and skill set. And I think as employers, it is our responsibility to encourage them.
I guess the 2.5 years of the work-study program is well worth it. From this work-study program, I can install security systems, fix errors and also troubleshoot these security systems on site. And I feel like I can contribute more to Dragnet.
What we deem as important is to provide our people with the opportunity to flavor a different business group. We have actually gone through job rotation, for many years already as part of employee development. CEO coined the term Employer 4.0, an employer who truly believes in developing the strengths and the talents of the people.
I think it's very important for companies to groom their talents by giving them a lot of opportunities for self-development.
We are not just only willing to invest in terms of sending people for courses, but the other part really is investing in the time to walk alongside that colleague.
Companies must look at the big picture to see where they want to be in 10 years' time. For any business to propel forward, the team is very important.
Overall, it helped the company to be more structured and the people to be more knowledgeable and more equipped to bring the company to greater heights.
Wonderful. And as I was watching all those great schemes that we have I hope you guys take advantage of that. It was just amazing to see all the wonderful schemes that are being shared. In my past few years, as I left the corporate life and I spent about 18 years in wonderful companies, innovation was a lot of what I did. And so that's what I bring to the table. But more importantly, as a business transformation architect, in the last 6 years that I've started my business, I have helped transform several businesses, and I have seen firsthand what are some of the challenges, what are some of the things that businesses go through, and innovation is a huge thing that everybody wants. It's not a nice to have anymore, it's a must have, but it's technically hard to achieve, and people don't understand what it means. It's a big word, right? I mean, we all talk about innovation, but what does it really mean? And so today I'm bringing you some practical insights from the industry knowledge that I have working with companies as a business transformation architect, as a culture expert, as a company culture expert, helping companies become the best that they can be, reach their full potential, and rise to greatness. So I've seen firsthand the challenges that companies have in terms of really delivering on innovation. All companies think they are innovative, but very few companies actually are, right? Because what you learn in this class today, that companies don't innovate, people do. Companies don't innovate, people do. And unless people have the right mindset, because innovation starts up here and then it sort of permeates down here. But this is where you need to begin, up here with the right mindset. And that's exactly what we're going to learn here. I'm going to give you some powerful strategies, tips, and tricks to get people into the right mindset, right? And it doesn't matter how big your business is. If it's a startup, awesome. If it's an SME, fantastic. Small, medium, large, doesn't matter, or even an MNC. These are practical tips that you can apply, right? So I spent a decade in this company called Walt Disney. I'm sure some of you know this company. And this is a company, even today, this is the world's most innovative companies in 2019. Walt Disney, a 98-year-old company, still manages to make the top 5 most innovative companies in the world. And obviously this was because of the streaming service that they launched and the transformation that they're doing across the company. And so what did I learn in that decade being in this company? I learned a lot. I learned a lot of things, and it starts with day one. It starts with your mindset, how you sort of onboarded into that company, and how you work with the people, and how your culture manifests, and how it really empowers you to challenge yourself, to disrupt yourself. And that's what I bring here today. And some of you are looking at this list and saying, oh my God, look at Grab. Grab's number 2 there. Well done, Grab. Well done for them. The second most innovative company in 2019. And what has Grab done to be able to get there? Oh my God, they've transformed themselves from just being in the transportation business to all kinds of things, to payment services, to food kitchens. And that's powerful stuff. All right. So here's our journey today. Here's what we're going to do, all right? Given the time, and we'll see how it goes, but I want to make this, like I said, the most valuable couple of hours you spend in 2021. We'll look at a new order of business. There's definitely the world has changed around us. We'll see what is that impact of that for a business. Well, let's decode innovation. A lot of us have this idea of innovation, and we might have some definitions in our mind about it. But let's really get to the core of what it is, right? I'll give you a powerful, simple question that when you ask this, it changes everything. When I learned how to ask this question, innovation happens right there at that spot. We'll look at why most innovation fails. And this is the unfortunate part. Over 90% of transformation innovation projects fail in the world. And let's get to the core of why this happens. Okay, there's enough statistics to prove that, and I'm going to share some with you over the next over the course of this class. Right? But we need to understand why it fails, because once you understand that, then you can avoid those issues. I'm going to give you 3 powerful mindset enablers that I believe if you apply will truly transform innovation in your company. We'll touch a little bit on innovation culture and what that means. As you know, I'm a culture transformation expert, and I help companies really sort of build a powerful, strong culture that transforms them. And innovation is a big part of what they want to achieve. And if you have some time, we'll look at how we can build momentum. Because innovation needs nurturing, it needs nudging. You need to push this along. It's not just having a launch of something and then seeing it through. You need to fuel it. You need to really nudge this thing along. And I'm going to give you a flywheel effect idea around this. So with that, let's begin our journey. Let's begin our journey. And like I said, if you have any questions, happy to put those into the question and answer Q&A section here, or and I'll use the chat for this. So what is the new order of business that we're in? Ironically, I was talking about this even before we had this pandemic. And as a speaker, speak a lot around culture and corporate transformation around the region here. And I was talking about the world that we are in. And even before COVID, we had all this stuff going on. What is this? Rapid change. This is unprecedented. We've never had so much change happen in our lifetimes, all right? So look at the tech change, the people that are changing, the consumer habits that are changing. Technology is driving a lot of it, right? The way we live, the way we do things is changing. The way we would have done this perhaps in Jurong in the town hall, but we're doing this here. Our world has changed rapidly, right? So change is no longer it's coming. No, it's here. This is our new world, right? Disruption. You can't. I was talking about you can't throw a stone at a conference without hitting this. With a conference that has this word called disruption in it. Everywhere you go, you hear this word, disruption, and it's true. Think about it. Who would have thought in a few years back that the biggest hotel in the world doesn't own a single hotel room, right? Airbnb. Who would have thought the biggest taxi companies today wouldn't own the traditional taxi companies wouldn't own a single of their cab. And look what's happening around the world today, right? With Uber and stuff. And who would have thought our banks, in a few years are going to be completely digital? I mean, how many of us have been to a branch in the last year or so? We haven't. It's all done on our phone. So disruption is real. And if you're successful as a business, if you are successful and even moderately successful, someone is going to come after you, and they want to do it faster, cheaper, and better. So don't think that you have a competitive advantage just because you have a unique product and you're making money right now. You're successful. That is the most dangerous place you're in. Right? Because companies will go after others who are successful. They don't go after the ones that are not. So you're in a very vulnerable place, and that's why innovation needs to happen at a constant course. You can't afford to be complacent today because someone is going to come after you, and they want to do it faster, cheaper, and better. Right now, there's 5 or 10 startups looking to disrupt every traditional business out there. Right? So innovation is not a nice to have anymore. It's truly a must have. You have to push for innovation. And what else is driving this, right? Hyper competition. Not just competition, but hyper competition. Now, 10 years ago, we probably had about 5 or 7 products per category. Today is more like 30 or 40 products per category. And if you're in software, there's over 100 products in every category. So think about that. Tremendous competition. Right? And so you need to be ahead. You need to be on top of your game, to be constantly connecting, innovating, bringing new things to your customers, because that is what the need of the hour is, right? And of course, we have shifting consumer expectations. Today, people are no longer buying the way they used to 5 years ago. They're getting a lot more conscious. We have a conscious consumer today. Right? They want companies who stand for something. They want companies that believe in something. They want to align what they care about with what companies care. And today, they're reading labels. They want to understand what they're putting in their bodies and why they're buying things, and they want to support those businesses that are doing good as well. So we're dealing with a very powerful sort of shift here in the way consumers are buying things. And so we need to change as well as companies. We need to go on a soul-searching exercise and say, hey, this is not just about us products and services anymore. This is more than this. Our message needs to change. So there are shifting consumer expectations, very powerful shifts happening today. And COVID has accelerated a lot of this. COVID has tremendously accelerated. Yes, I mean, we have to address the elephant in the room, right? Who would have thought that anybody here have a pandemic in your 3-year business plan? Let me know in the chat that anybody had this contingency in your 5-year or 3-year business plan. I doubt it. I doubt it. So this is what we need to be. We need to be hyper adaptable, not even adaptable anymore, hyper adaptable, right? We need to be rapidly be able to make changes to our companies. I mean, overnight, supply lines were disrupted. Everything changed overnight for us. And those companies that are not agile or not nimble are left behind. And so how do you get people to think about this? How do you get people not just to worry about what's happening, but to say, let's get out of this. Let's innovate our way out of this, right? And that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to spend this hour and a half this morning, to understand what truly works as an innovation, not from a high percentage. And so what are these changes? Winds of change are creating a perfect storm that we're in. We are in a perfect storm, my friends, and a lot of businesses are going to be engulfed by what I call this massive business tsunami that's coming. This is real. The first wave of the tsunami already here. A lot of businesses have literally been wiped out overnight because they haven't been resilient. They haven't been adaptive quickly. And that's what we need. We need mindsets. We need people who wake up in the morning and say, let's change the way we do things. Things are getting a bit too comfortable here. Let's change things quickly before somebody else does. Right? I always say we have to wake up in the morning to disrupt ourselves, put ourselves out of business before someone else does. That's a good mindset to have, but very few companies have that, right? Very few leaders, very few department heads wake up in the morning and say, I want to put myself out of business before someone else does. Let me see what I can do to change things quickly, right? How would someone attack me if I did this? So I have to be 1, 2, 3, 4 steps ahead to be successful, to be super successful. So how do you navigate in the midst of all this chaos and change and swirling sort of this perfect storm that we're in? How do we navigate our way to success? There is a way out. There's always a way out, right? How do we do that? It's through these things, right? How do we sustain? And it's about not just, sort of doing things on the norm, but sustaining your competitive advantage. And that's a big word, competitive advantage. How do you maintain that? Because if you can do that consistently, you have a thriving business, right? Competitive advantage means your customers know exactly why they buy from you and the products that are constantly innovative, and you manage to keep that critical customer loyalty with you. That's so important. How do you sustain that, right? Here's a few things, and these are some macro things, and then we'll dive into each one of these in detail. Self-disruption, that's how you do it. You try and disrupt yourself before someone else does, right? You look at things and say, let's hack our systems and processes before someone else does. Because what got you here today is not going to get you to where you want to be tomorrow. Let me say that again here. What got you here today, whatever got you here, and you're successful, let's assume that you're doing really well, is not going to take you to where you need to be tomorrow, right? We need to take not just incremental changes, but we need to take quantum leaps. And what is a quantum leap? A quantum leap is jumping from A to B without a ladder. You just boom, you're there, right? So we need to take those quantum leaps, and we've seen several businesses pivot very quickly, even though they've been around for so many years, quickly pivot to something and create new products. And that's what we need today. We need to challenge existing paradigms. We need to challenge. What is Elon Musk doing? Challenging paradigms. He says, he sees the world as electric. Why couldn't we do this? Why couldn't we go to space for $50 million as opposed to $1 billion every time? Challenge paradigms, right? Move through, change. And that's what we need. And we need to take not just risks, but very bold risks. Bold risks. Now, my friends, you tell me, how many companies actually have empowered this to happen? Tell me in the chat here, how many companies have actually empowered this to happen in their businesses? And the answer should be very few. Very few. So we know, yes, you're right. Pixar definitely challenging themselves, and we look at the top innovative companies, and this is what they're doing. This is constant. This is the way they live every day. This is how they do stuff, right? This is how they live and breathe. And so how does this happen? I'll tell you. And that's what really sort of innovation means, right? It's all those key things. It's about disruption. It's about self-disruption, challenging paradigms, taking bold risks. And innovate is not a light word. And let's define this today. Let's define that. And I hear a lot of this sort of words being interchanged, creativity and innovation. But tell me in the chat, first of all, is there a difference for you? Do you see a difference between creativity and innovation? And it'd be nice to hear from some of you. Tell me in the chat, what do you feel is the difference? Okay, so what is the difference between creativity and innovation? Let's have some thoughts here from you. That's very nice, Nelly. Yeah. Yep. Creativity doesn't necessarily lead to innovation. That's right. The difference between conceiving the idea of a craft. Wow. Perfect. Wonderful. Bob, that's really nice. Yes, creativity is more specific, hands-on, more intrinsic. Lovely, Chris. Well, thank you. Wonderful. So for me, creativity solves problems. Okay, creativity solves problems. It's like, okay, how do I navigate through this traffic, right? I use Waze today. I mean, Waze would be able to get me out of that situation. Or how do I navigate out of this little issue that I have? So creativity solves problems. But for me, innovation is bigger. Like you said, innovation is a game changer. It's bigger. It adds huge value when it's successful, and it moves a mountain, right? So innovation is not incremental changes. It's not solving problem. It's reinventing stuff. It's bigger. It's definitely bigger. And that's my humble opinion. And so that's important to understand. So we use creativity every day to solve problems. And these are more incremental changes that we make and do things. But innovation actually is a bigger thing. It's much bigger than that, right? Because it actually challenges everything that we do. So here's a few things that you might want to take away. It reinvents. Innovation reinvents things. It looks at something that we've probably been doing and say, okay, this, we need to break this. We need to hack this today. Innovation reinvents. Innovation is a game changer, my friends. It truly is a game changer. Companies change direction, new revenue streams, everything can change with innovation. Now, there's degrees of innovation, all right? There's process innovation, there's several different things that we can look at, or there's sometimes we say, oh my God, we have to pivot our business because we're no longer relevant today. And that's game changing, where a lot of companies are not doing what they used to doing. And we can see, look at IBM, started off with the hardware company and where they are today and powerful software transformation. And so, Microsoft as well. So we're looking at innovation just being a game changer. It's really, really big. And for me, this is what I learned. And it's a simple question, but it's the most powerful question that you can ask in your meetings, in your Zoom calls, in your brainstorms, the what if question. It's so easy, and yet it's so powerful. All right, so here's your first takeaway for today. And let's see how this works. Our humble fan hasn't changed for the last 50 years. It still has a motor, it has some blades on it, and it has a cage to protect those blades, right? And although many companies have done sort of little changes, incremental changes to this, fundamentally this hasn't changed. Well, you might have lighter blades, you might have more powerful motors, remote controls have been added, bigger, maybe 18-inch blades, but those are just incremental changes, right? But one company comes along and say, what if a fan didn't need blades? What if we reinvented this? What if the way we move air is different from what exists? What if, right? And we all know the answer to that. And why would we pay $700, $600 for a fan today? Apparently we do. And Dyson's a very successful company. Really, right? What if? But it challenges existing paradigms. It challenges everything we do. It's a simple question. We get into that meeting and say, what if? Right? I'll show you more examples of how this works. Today, most courier companies, and we are using a lot of the courier companies today, everything we buy is online mostly and delivered to us. A lot of companies today are looking at how can we make that last mile very efficient. That last mile delivery is absolutely key. Drivers, using GPS's accuracy, how do we deliver that last mile? But a company came along and said, what if we don't need delivery vehicles? What if we don't need this conventional way of delivering stuff, right? This is how our stuff's going to be dropped in the next few years. It's already started, right? So it's about reinvention. It's about what if we don't need. A lot of us get stuck with working on what we have, the current problem. Yeah, right. And so basically we need to redefine that. And while we're getting stuck at that main problem, we have to think about, do we even need this? Wow, that's powerful. Do we even need this? Is this the way? There's another way to do this, right? What if we did it differently? And it's such a powerful question. When I learned to use this, everything changed. I started going to meetings. I started looking really smart there. I said, what if we didn't do this? What if he has another way? What if we did that? I think we're looking at it too micro. Let's think about it bigger. What if we didn't do this? Let's continue with that. Today, restaurants, I mean, the way you measure, success in restaurants, or you want to increase your profits, is by covers, right? You increase your area, and so you have more outlets, and that's the traditional way of doing that. But what if we didn't need restaurants? What if we didn't need restaurants? What if we delivered food and created brands that people had no even, there's no physical outlet? It's through cloud kitchens today. Yes, so I'm coming to that. Great one. Anonymous. A lot of seasoned leaders still maintain the mindset. And that's what I do. I help them change their mindset, because the old ways of doing business and running a company and culture, that doesn't work anymore. We are in a completely different world, and we have to wake up. But I'll come to that. And that's exactly where we're headed. But for this, for now, I just want to show you the power of asking this what if questions. What if you don't need restaurants? I mean, there's another way. And so when you ask the what if question, you're already empowering innovation. But I'll get to why companies haven't empowered the what if question. Now, pills. A lot of us today have our parents, or even us, we're taking multiple different pills for our various issues that we have. And this is a problem, right? We have those boxes. We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it is confusing. What if we don't need to take multiple pills? NUS today is working on 3D printed pills that be able to design your medication for you. So you have 5 different pills in one, and you take that. And in the future, you're going to have a 3D printer at home. You'll have a licensing issue. You'll have the chemicals there, and they'll be able to issue that, and you'll be able to print your medication at home. And now that's powerful stuff. What if? Again, asking this what if question is powerful, right? It's a game changer. All right, let's continue. Now, I love cars, and that's the only thing we begin to do here in this island drive. Now, every car company, up till in the last few years, was looking to make the car more advanced or more comfortable or more amazing for the driver. It was all around the driver. The cockpit was the key thing, right? But there's a company that came across and said, what if there is no driver? What if we took the driver out of the equation? Right? What if? Right? And that was the first Google car, and that's what it is, right? And this now has spawned a whole new industry of autonomous vehicles. And in the next 5 years, a lot of our cars are going to be driverless. Although I still enjoy driving, so giving me those two options. But what if you took the driver out? So think about this question, my friends. How many of us are going into brainstorm meetings after this session, today, this week, and going in and looking at doing some incremental things to your companies, to your processes? How many of you are going to ask this question? What if we didn't do this? What if there was another way to do this? What if? Learn to use this question, my friend. It is a powerful innovation enabler. Now, once you ask that question, we have to have a few other things in place to be able to transform things in your company. But it starts with this question. It's a simple but powerful thing. What if we didn't do this? What if we we are stuck with these processes for too long. What if we change this? What if there's another way for us to get this customer this? What is another way to get this feedback? What is another way for us to do this? What if? It's a powerful question. Now, I normally do an exercise when I teach this at SME Academy, and we take a dinner plate and we reinvent it. But again, for this session, I think if you take away the what if question, it's powerful. So let's recap the key things here about innovation. Innovation challenges existing paradigms, right? It changes entrenched view, and it challenges what is possible. And so this is some heavy lifting, all right? We need to do some heavy lifting around, because in companies, we tend to get quite comfortable with the processes and systems. And that's the nature of companies. You know, we build layers in, and we love structure, we love these things. But here we're talking about breaking those things. And that's what these companies do. These highly innovative companies, right? They function like a startup, and there's a term for it, a startup of startups. And that's what Mark Zuckerberg calls Facebook, a startup of startups. Tens of thousands of people working with the passion and energy and resilience and the agility of a startup in a huge company. Wow, right? Everybody has been empowered to make the changes that they want. And there's layers of hierarchy that have been eliminated. So again, it comes back to mindset. A lot of you have talked about that. Yeah, it comes back. So now, the reality is every company tries new things, but a reality is a majority of innovation fails today. Now, can you tell me some companies that are no longer around here because they failed to innovate? Tell me in the chat. What are some well-known companies? Right, Bob, absolutely. Yeah, what else? What else is not around us? Yeah, Konica, Kodak, exactly. These were pioneers in their time, right? And they didn't see the light. They didn't see things changing around them. Toys R Us, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Blockbuster. Oh, that's a great story. Hey, Angelus, good to see you here. Blockbuster. It's a wonderful story. Did you know that Netflix actually started like Blockbuster? They were actually renting DVDs as well. And they disrupted their business. They woke up one day and said, listen, we can't do this. There's a better way of doing this. What about streaming? So they actually took a massive hit, but they saw the long-term upside, right, from that. Borders, Motorola. Yeah, there's so many businesses today that no longer exist around us. So we begin to see that, and I work for a company called Sony Pictures, and after I left Disney, I worked for Sony Pictures. And thinking about the days where Sony was in a perfect position to be the next Netflix. Sony had PlayStation. There was already 80 million subscribers on PlayStation. They owned a content company, Sony Pictures. They owned a tremendous amount of content around the world, and they had the electronic side, right? They had phones, and they had all the technology. And so they didn't think about putting it all together and starting a streaming service because they didn't want to disrupt the current business model that was bringing in a lot of money. And so that's something we need to think about, right? You have to take a hit now to be able to sustain your competitive advantage or your business long term. And a lot of it means self-disruption. And that's challenging. That's not easy to do, but you have to take those bold risks sometimes and reinvent. Now, I know a lot of us here today have reinvented your businesses, and you took a bold risk, and well done on you, right? You moved into an area that you were uncomfortable with. That's powerful. That's great. Constantly do that. Move into areas that you're not comfortable with. Learn, and iterate and move. And that's what we want, right? That's what we want to do more of. Okay, so just to remind us that innovation is not easy, and there will be failures. Because one of the things you want to take away from here this morning is that you have to be okay with failing, my friends. You have to be okay with failing. And I know it's counterculture in Asia because we're not brought up here to fail. We're brought up here to win and succeed. But failure is part and parcel of innovation. And all these big companies that we talk about, innovative companies, they reprogram your brain from day one and tell you, John, it's okay to fail. Bob, it's okay to fail. Nelly, it's okay to fail here. Because if you are not failing, you're not experimenting. If you're not experimenting, you're not innovating. How many of you agree with me on that? Tell me in the chat. If you're not failing, you're not experimenting. If you're not experimenting, you are not innovating. How many of you agree with me? That's good. Okay, good. And so let's remind ourselves here. This is important. Let's get comfortable with failure. Let's all get comfortable with failure, because through failure, innovation happens. Okay, it's not a direct process. It's not, oh, you get it the first time or you get it the second time. You sometimes takes a while. So let's remind ourselves here. This is a wonderful clip. I thought it's just a reminder of how many things have failed for us. And so, okay, let's now accept that things are going to go wrong, and that's part and parcel of who we are. And so we need to have a process for this. We need to budget for this. Right? We'll come to just a reminder that things will go wrong, and it's okay. We have to get comfortable with failure. And again, and I say it again and again, because we're part of the culture here in this part of the world that doesn't accept failure. A lot of times, employees, if they try new things and they fail, they will be sacked. Right? And I know this firsthand as a business transformation architect. I speak to a lot of people when we do transformation projects, and they say, I don't think I can fail in this company. I would lose my job. Get comfortable with failure. Build that in. You need to set that up. Like I said, mindset. It starts here. It starts here before it happens down here. Innovation happens up here. So if you're not failing, you're not experimenting, right? If you're not experimenting, you can't innovate. So how do you take something? Innovation is a game changer. It changes things. So how do you take something that's so new and different and challenges everyone's belief? Is disruptive and it has it challenges the status quo. How do you make that into a cultural acceptance? How do you get people to be comfortable with this environment at work, right? Because you might have a breakthrough idea, and a lot of us will. We all have ideas, but if you can't get anyone to believe in it, to get behind it, and to act on it, it's dead on arrival, pretty much, right? So this is what we want. And a lot of innovation ideas happen in companies, but they don't bubble to the surface because the company hasn't empowered this to happen. It hasn't empowered this to happen, right? And so we need to think about that mindset. So this is really about fostering the right mindset in the company, allowing ideas to permeate and be part of the process, allow new things to come through the surface, eliminate hierarchy, right? And be able to take quick decisions and decide, okay, let's go with this or not. And that's exactly what we're going to learn here. How do we do that? How do we take quicker decisions? How do we get people to think and challenge themselves, right? We're coming to that. Because the truth is, my friends, 30,000 new products introduced every year, 95% of them fail. So we have to now accept that failure is part of this, right? Now, you tell me, why is this happening? Why is innovation so hard to achieve? Because if innovation was easy, every company, and we wouldn't have to sit down here and do this session, right? But why is it that innovation is really hard to achieve? Why does 95% of innovation fail? Tell me in the chat. What are your thoughts? Why does it fail? Self-sabotage culture, Bob. Absolutely. Yes, that's right. We're getting to the core of that. What else? There's several reasons. Let me know. It impacts a lot of things. Yes, Nelly, it's a game changer, so it does impact, right? It does have a domino effect. So you have to cater for that in the company. There has to be a process to be able to do that. What else? I'm sure there's tons of, come on guys, all of you here. Insufficient due diligence. Yes. No budget. Thank you. Yes. We have to provide some money for this. Resistance to change, Nelly. Awesome. Yes, people are not happy with change. Who cares, right? Change is uncomfortable. It's unpredictable. It's new territory. We're not comfortable. You can't visualize the future potential. Bunang, yes. So we need a story around innovation. We need people to be able to articulate a powerful story, a vision about where we want to go. That is the first thing, because you don't have a product to show. You don't have anything yet to show, a process. So all you need all you have really is a story, right? So you need a powerful story around that. Top management not supporting. Absolutely. You haven't been empowered from top down to be able to do something like this. A lot of times people say, okay, that's too risky, right? And people are worried about their own concerns. So you need to factor in your stakeholders' interests as well down the line. Okay, thank you. That's really, really good stuff. Now, I want to touch on one key thing. I think, and I've been alluding to this for the last 15 minutes or so, right? The very thing that made you successful is your biggest threat to success. The very thing that makes a company successful, exactly the same thing does make it difficult to embrace the new, right? Why does that happen? Because success is your biggest threat to success. And here we're talking about complacency, right? What got you here ain't going to get you to where you need to be tomorrow. So you've been successful. That's great, right? But that doesn't mean that this guarantees your long-term, sort of competitive advantage. No, no, no. In fact, because you're successful, more people are going to come after you now, right? They're going to challenge you. And so you need to disrupt. Now is the time when you are on that high horse, when you're riding that high horse of yours, where you've been successful at something. That's the time to self-disrupt. That is the right time to do that. That is absolutely the right time to do that. So how do you achieve innovation? We know a lot of innovation fails. So how do you achieve innovation that is real and enduring? And there are already hints in here, right? It's about mindset, it's about self-disruption, it's about budget, making sure you have money to innovate, and a process in place. So that's what we're going to sort of build on here in my 3 enablers of innovation. But actually, how does it work? How does it work? Believe it or not, it's not technology. It's not technology, because a lot of technology today is not translating into innovation, sadly. It's really about changing mindsets and hard sets. A lot of you alluded to this, and Bob, I think you did, right? But you talked about culture as well. Because innovation needs to happen up here first before it happens down here. It starts here. And so you need to have the right people with the right mindset, more importantly, the right hard sets, who are comfortable with changing things, who are disrupting, who are okay with being in an uncomfortable environment. Because as human beings, we are predisposed to comfort. We don't like putting ourselves in harm's way. We don't like change. Who likes change? That's like uncomfortable. It's uncertain. It's unpredictable. A lot of uns there. Unpredictable. It's uncertain. It's those things. And so we have to get comfortable with that. We have to really get comfortable, because, my friends, companies don't innovate. People do. Right? People do. So here we are. Now we're going to dive deep into the strategies and how we get this done. But very quickly here, this is something that I need to share here, and this was shocking when I came across this study. A lot of transformation was failing in Singapore, right? A lot of government, you've seen the initiatives here, the transformation roadmaps, the things that have been launched out by SSG, and the government is just tremendously powerful, giving so much impetus and support to companies. But the fact is, a lot of that's failing. A lot of that fails, right? And so they decided to commission a study around why does this fail? And this is SMU, there was KPMG, DBS Bank, and Tata Communications, and they put out a study, and it's available online. You can just go and see for yourself. And the essence of that study is they interviewed, I think, over 700, 800 companies and say, why is this not working? Why is the transformation not translating into true transformation, right? And the end of that study, the essence of that study, was this: digital transformation only succeeds if it's rooted in behavioral change. So it's not really a technology. It's not about bringing a fancy sort of ERP system into your company. It's not about bringing some great new process. So it starts with your people. And what is behavioral change? Really? Culture. Culture determines digital transformation success. If your people don't embrace it, if you don't have the right people with the right mindset to be able to start innovation, nothing happens, because you will just go back to where you were. You spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars with a fancy process and a system, and it hasn't worked, because it starts with people. Companies don't innovate. People do, my friends. And so what was it in a decade that I spent at this company? What was it that really rewired or reprogrammed me to be able to challenge myself here on a daily basis, to be able to think and be super creative and innovative in everything that I do? There was a few things in place that made this happen. And this is what I teach companies in my culture transformation work. I have a roadmap, right? I've written a book around corporate culture, and every company today says they want to be innovative, but they don't know how to get there. And that's what I help them do. Very simple, very powerful process of transformation. Say, okay, here's what we need to put in place here from a culture perspective, because I have been through this and I know firsthand what it feels like to be in a truly innovative company. And as you saw, Disney still is in the top 5 most innovative companies in the world. The theme parks, if you go at the end of COVID, and hope it's going to happen soon, I'm sure a lot of you want to go to Disneyland just to get into that new fantasy world, get out of this reality into this fantasy world. And you realize a magic band just gets you through things. And again, there's so much innovation that this company does. Today, streaming services, and it's part of in everything that it does. It's they have thousands and thousands of patents, and this is Walt Disney. It comes from his mindset, right? Perfection and challenging and doing things. It's seeded into the DNA of the company. Very, very powerful. So it's coded in there. Now, let's bring it closer to home here. My wife the other day asked me, "Hey, Cap, I need a new hairdryer. Can I get that fancy one? I think it's from Dyson." I said, "Honey, $500. Can you just go with the $40 one from Lazada?" And she said, "No, I want that one." What is it? What is it about these products? I mean, and when we walk around these stores, when we walk around our department stores, and we just gleam at these products, Dyson is just amazing. Every one of these is like an art piece. What has empowered this company to do what they do, right? And today, obviously, been hugely successful. He did buy one of the most expensive penthouses in the world, 75 million. Yeah, Gluco Tower, 4 floors. He sold it to an Indonesian businessman. But hey, James Dyson today we can all agree, lives and breathes innovation. And he set up a company here in Singapore now to be able to do that. He has thousands of engineers working there. And he has failed at a lot of things, my friend. He came here to set up a electric vehicle plant, and that didn't work. And he's okay with that. But that doesn't stop him from trying. So let's get into the mindset part. Let's get deeper into how innovation actually works. All right. So here's the 3 key things. And we're alluding to the first one a lot already. Empower people to fail, right? How do you take calculated risks? Now, once you have ideas, you have tons of ideas coming through. How do you evaluate those ideas, right? How do you make quick decisions? So I'm going to give you a very powerful sort of strategy around that. And then the idea of breaking things and challenging the status quo, and how do companies do that? So 3 key things. The first, again, the number one thing is get comfortable with failure, right? Because quite simply, if you're not failing, you're not experimenting. And if you're not experimenting, you're not innovating. Write this down. This is one of the things you need to really make a mantra in your company and let people know that, hey, it's okay. Day one, when people come to you in your recruiting process, on your onboarding, you need to let them know. Now, one of the things I ask companies, and a lot of companies, when I work with them, they say, hey, we are innovative. And I said, okay. And I talk to their staff, and it's a very different reality. I talk to their staff. Are you empowered to fail here? What is the last time you've tried new things? I look at your goal setting. I said, show me your goal setting. Do you have anything around innovation in your goals? It's always, this target, we have to reach this money, and this is our growth. But what about an innovation goal? An innovation goal goes like this. It says, how many new things have you tried this year? How many things have you failed at? That was a goal that I had at Disney, because it's part of the company DNA. How many of you have put this in your goal setting for your people? Right? So how many new things have you tried, and how many things have you failed at? This sends a very strong signal that you have to think about innovation. It's part of who we are in our company. It has to be part of your performance review. It needs to be in your goal setting. That's how powerful it is, right? And that's what empowers people to change their mindset, because now I have to show every year that I'm trying, I'm pushing myself, I'm doing new things. One of the things we get stuck with is something called best practices. Now, I ask companies, so let me know about your best practices. And they say, we have a lot of best practices here. We do this, we do this. How long have you had these? Since the beginning, since 10 years, 5 years. Really? And there's no better way to do anything now? Right? And they go, what are you saying? Says, okay, what I say is best practices are actually killing innovation. Now, don't get me wrong here. You need best practices if you have very specific operations. Operating, if you're a pilot or a CAT scan or a doctor or surgeon, you need best practices. You can't deviate from the plan too much, right? But I'm talking about everyday things that are happening in your company. And you have best practices for your processes, your systems, your SOPs. And you're telling me that in the past few years, you've been using the same, and there's no better way to do that? And people get stuck with best practices. Becomes a crutch for companies, because the moment you join a company, they tell you this is how it's supposed to go. This is how it's done. Now, what have you effectively done for that employee? You have told that person that we don't accept any new ways to do this. Think about that. Think about that. Think about what's happening right now, right? How have you programmed that person when they join your company? Said, this is how it's done. Isn't there a better way to do it? As opposed to saying, this is how we think it's done, and we've been doing it like this, but by no ways is this set in stone. And we really appreciate your input and ideas and thoughts to make things better, because we believe there's always a better way to do that. Now you have opened someone's mind and say, oh, okay, I'm empowered to bring some innovation here. I'm empowered to do this. Best practices are killing companies, my friend. So what you need really is next practices. Next practices. Write that down, all right? And this is about looking at your systems and processes and saying there's always room for improvement here. Dyson's story goes beyond, just being a company philosophy. It's put in every product. I walked around, bought the head dryer, I looked around, this is Best Denki, I think, is walking around, and I looked at a box of Dyson box, and the story of the inventor, his mindset is there on every product box. It's 5,127 prototypes. It took 5 years to develop the Cyclone technology. Any one of us would have given up at maybe 10 or 100 or 500, but not Dyson. 5,000 prototypes to get it where it was. Refining, testing, and patenting. 1,700 engineers do this every day, right? Because they come from this philosophy set by the founder, powerful. Making mistakes and taking risks, the fuel for inventiveness and solving. And so these companies today, we look at them, and I like to, talk about, what is it that they have done so well, is they have fueled this process. Innovation is they live and breathe that. They are getting very comfortable with failure, very comfortable with failure. And Google on day one, you are said that you are joining a company where it's okay to fail, right? You experiment and try new things. I don't care which company you've come from, but here it's okay to fail. Everything that they have done has come from this time, or 15% time where you can work on your pet projects, Gmail, Maps, all the things that have added value to Google today has come from this innovative thinking. And of course, providing resources as well to be able to do that, right? So these companies are doing it so well. So, and innovation is intrinsic to how they operate. It's part of their DNA. Now, one of the things we can learn from these companies, and again, at Disney, we had this wonderful thing that we had to put aside a certain amount of our budget. Every department had to put aside a certain amount of their budget for fun stuff, for experimental things, right? And you can decide what it is. 5%, 10%. I think we had about 10%, and that's quite a lot. When you're looking at $3-4 million, that's $300,000-400,000 of play money. And what is this money about? You have to spend it on experimental fun things. So your people know, your team knows there's money set aside, and you can just decide that in your companies, put aside a small amount of money and say, let's try this. So people know there's resources, there's budget. It's been budgeted for. Try new things, and this can be as part of their KPI as well. Use this money to do that. This is not money that you feel good about giving back to finance. No. You have to use it, and you have to tangibly show. Doesn't matter if you failed, whatever. What did we learn from that? Share this with the group, right? You can do this even with time. A lot of companies like Google have 15% time. 3M started with 3M. 15% of employees' time can be used for experimental things. And you can come up with ideas that can work. It doesn't have to be the area that you're working on. It could be another area, different areas of your company, but it's built into your time. So 15% of a week is a lot of time, right? Think about it. It's like 8-9 hours you can spend on doing experimental things. Share this with the group. And if your idea gets traction, you can ask other people to join you. You can put leaderboards, notice boards, stickers up there. People join you, and then the company then takes it on to the next level. So there's a built-in process to bring these ideas to the surface. So it starts with letting people know there's budget. There will be time that you can play, where you can do things. Your pet projects are welcome. We are all part of experimenting here. So there's a thing, right? So how do you do that? How do you do that? Literally, you can take a picture of this here. At meetings, you encourage people to talk about how did you try something new? Every meeting, every brainstorm, and we all have meetings, weekly, monthly meetings, celebrate things that are being done, new things that are being done. So James here, he challenged something last week, but it didn't work, but that's fine. But what did we learn? We learned that this, that's what, fantastic. That's the spirit of who we are. We're trying new things. This is Paul. He tried something and it worked. Wow, well done. This is the 6th time he's done it, and it really brought us result. It moved our customer, our customer sort of reviews from here to there just by adding this one thing along our customer journey. We tried it. The other things didn't work, but this worked. Well done. Celebrate those. Talk about those things. That should be sending a powerful signal to your team that we are a company that experiments, that we try new things, and we love innovation. It's part of who we are. Ensure that everyone has an experiment and fail goal, right? In your goal setting, every one of your company has to have this. How many new things? And it doesn't matter what department you're in, finance, product, doesn't matter. Everyone has, there's always something that you can innovate on in what you use every day in your systems and processes. Empower everyone to do that. And so once they have a goal, they have a clear goal, they have a KPI attached to that, then you see how things change in your company. Your mindset will change. Celebrate failures. Celebrate failures. Let people know that this is a company, it's okay to fail here, right? From day one also, in your onboarding, in your orientation, and also at meetings and trying things, let people know we made a mistake here. We didn't get this right, but here's what we learned. 1, 2, 3. Wow. All right, included in your onboarding part. Create a circle of safety, and this is psychological safety. Right? Let people know to speak up in meetings, and they tried something. They want people to be sort of paranoid about, oh, I did something and it didn't work. Day one, let people know that it's okay here. And as a leader, and if you're leading of the department, you're the one that empowers us. A lot of you said here, it starts at the top, right? Yes, you need to let people know. Talk about your own failures. Talk about things that haven't gone right in your life, right? And I talk about my failures all the time. It took me a year to almost 2 years to figure out what my purpose in life was, and I'm doing what I'm doing now. I'm tremendously passionate about what I do and I love. But it wasn't easy, my friends. I took a massive hit. I tried so many things, it didn't work until I landed on stuff. And today I teach innovation, I teach culture. I'm a business transformation architect and a speaker, but it didn't start like that. My path was a series of things that didn't work. But I knew that I was going to be doing this for the long term. I took a 10, 20-year horizon and said, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And that's why I'm here in front of you, right, today. Things will go wrong. Create that circle of safety. Let people know it's okay. Fail forward is a good word, right? Let people know it's safe to express themselves here. Let's take a leaf off the person who has failed the most. For 20 years, he didn't return any money to his shareholders. People were worried about this guy. Today, he's the richest man on the planet, and he's just come back from space as well. So, it's uncanny how this works. And once you let people know that it's okay to do things in this company and fail. Now, you don't want to risk the whole business. You have to set the parameters. You have to set the goalposts around what is risks, what is acceptable risk, what is bold risks. You don't want to, sort of back the whole business on risk as well. But sometimes, people need to know, okay, I can play. This is my sandbox. This is where I can play in. So set those parameters. And oftentimes, people just play in that very narrow thing. Well, okay, I can do this as well. I can make changes, macro changes if I want to. Yes, let them know. Failure and invention are inseparable twins. Wonderful, Bezos. Okay. Now, I want you to think about writing down, spend a couple of minutes here, and right now, make some decisions. What are some things I can do in my company, right? Don't need to share this with everybody. This is some personal reflection. What are some things I can start with tomorrow? My meetings, my people, my goals. There's so many things, so many ideas already here from this session. What can I do to empower innovation in my company? Start writing it right now. I'll give you a minute to do some self-reflection and write these right now. It's even 1 or 2 or 3 key things that you start, and that's the beginning. You light up, you ignite this in your company, but it starts now, right? So you're going to go back after this session, so you're going to think about this. I'm going to go back, I'm going to speak to HR, I'm going to do my meetings, talk to my managers, me, myself. What am I going to do differently to start igniting this mindset change in my company? What am I going to do to empower my people to experiment, to try new things, to fail and learn from that experience, right? Okay, good. Let's move on. The second one, the second enabler is how do you take calculated risks, right? Because now you have to make decisions. You're going to get a lot of ideas. Once you empower people to come up with ideas and innovate, they're going to get a lot of that stuff. Now, how do you evaluate it, right? What do you weigh against? Okay, I go with this, I go with that. Calculated risks are very important. So here's a wonderful tool that you can use. I wish I'd come up with this, but I didn't. But it's a powerful tool that I use for my decisions as well, and I share this with a lot of companies. I call it the one-way door or the two-way door. It's very simple. So the one-way door is you look at that idea and you say, okay, one-way door decisions are some decisions that you can't reverse. That means this involves investing. This involves, a lot of extra work, and you can't change it. It's not easy to reverse that one, right? These take too much effort, they're expensive, and these decisions to be done carefully. They need to be evaluated, and they need more time. Now, you have to decide if it's a one-way door and a two-way door. A two-way door, if it's reversible, do it, right? So a two-way door is, let's try this. If it didn't work, we can go back to what we were, right? So if it's reversible, let's do it, right? If it doesn't work out as planned, you can reverse them and try something else, because this decision don't carry risk and you can try them out. So this is very powerful. And if you use this in your company all the time, and is this a one-way door or two-way door? Now, if it's one way, you need more time and evaluation. If it's reversible, do it. Move quickly, all right? Let's move things there. So, and sometimes you have a one-way door, but you can also turn it into a two-way door without as much risk. Maybe you can give it to a third party, you can try some things, or you can outsource certain things, so you don't hire people, or you don't bring in people that are going to be fixed assets, or you don't buy equipment. You can try something and it still becomes a two-way door. But this is a very simple tool to say, okay, is this a one-way door, two-way door? If it's two-way door, let's just do it, right? I mean, how much is it going to cost? We can revert back to where we were. Now, it works really well. So how can you reduce your exposure? You can run quick demand tests. So this is constantly being done. You can run a beta test. You can do a small scale version of it. You can do a trial period, early bird specials if you want to experiment with some kind of new offer that you have. You lease versus buy the equipment, so there's no capital investment there. You test in a small market, and we used to do this all the time. We were using test beds, certain countries, smaller sections, to try this out and see if it works. And then you can negotiate buyback guarantees or exit clauses as well, so your risk is minimal, so you can reduce some of that risk, right? So you can turn one-way doors into a two-way door. Classic example of Sir Richard Branson, when he launched Virgin, he said he could make a deal with Boeing, so hand the plane back. He was, he wanted to start an airline, there's no idea, but he said, okay, this is going to be a big risk, but I can mitigate that risk, and then I can try and reduce that. And so he just had to lease one. And if things didn't work out, I could have walked back through that door. So wonderful example of hey, I don't have to buy this plane. I can just lease it, try it out. If it works, it doesn't work, then I give it back. Okay, I would have learned something from here. So that's something we can do. Okay. And oftentimes we don't take decisions. We want analysis, and there's a term for it, it's paralysis paralysis. We overanalyze things. And the problem here in these companies is that, right? We want to be 90% sure or 100% sure this is going to work. Forget that mindset. Let's, even if it's 50, 60%, go for it. If it's reversible, you go back to where you were. You've lost a little thing here, time and effort, but it's part of the process, right? That's what we want. Making a decision at 70% certainty and then course correcting is a lot more effective than waiting for 90% certainty. A lot of us here, a lot of our businesses we are too careful, too cautious, and we can't afford to have that mindset today. We need to be more experimental, right? So if you have a gut feel, go for it. You have 50, 60%. How much more information do you need? How much more research do you need? There's no end to this. At some point, you say, let's go with it, right? If it's reversible, hey, it's fine. Being able to recognize that, and I think it's once you decide one way, one way door, two way, is this a one way? Just apply that. Your decision making gets really, really fast, right? Okay, your risk is minimal, just do it. It can be reversed. Now, some things can't be reversed. That needs a little more time, but don't slow down. A lot of companies procrastinate. They're slowing down with this, and that's killing them. So the right questions to ask: is this good for our customers? Perfect, right? Oftentimes we make the wrong decision. Is this going to make us money? No. Is this good for our customer? Money will come as a result of that. Is this good for our customers, right? Is this something that's going to make them, make it simpler, easier for them? Is their life going to get better as a result of that? Is this good for our company? Is this Is this perfect for our brand? This is who we are. The right question, asking the right questions. And is this good for us, right? So again, customers, company, brand, these are the three key things that we need to ask ourselves. Is this going to make sense? Jeff Bezos is known for that. Every decision that was taken in the company boardroom, he would point to a chair, an empty chair on the corporate table. And who was that chair for? Customers. He said, what difference is that going to make to this person here? What is it going to make? Every decision that they took, he would point to their chair and says, is it going to make a difference to them? What will they say about this idea? Wow, that's how customer obsessed he was. And that's the good question to ask, because in the end, every decision that you make on innovation needs to result in some upside, some benefit, some transformation for your end users, right? So what is that going to mean to them? Wonderful way to do that. All right, so the other thing is challenging the status quo. Again, we come back to this mindset. How do you get people to be disruptive in their minds? Because when we go to work every morning, on a Monday morning, or even on a Wednesday morning, we don't sit on our desk and say, how do I challenge myself today? How do I disrupt everything that I do, I can do it better. It doesn't come organically to us. It's something that we don't do, but it needs to be there at the back of our head. So and let's take a leaf from Facebook here, where Mark Zuckerberg has this mantra about we're just 1% done. Right? They'll never have the perfect product, never. It's something that they see over the horizon and something that they look forward to achieve. And so this is a philosophy that is very deep in the company. Everybody knows that every day we come here, we can constantly do things better because we're 1% done. It hangs over everybody's desk at Facebook, right? 1% done. We're never going to be done. And if you think that your product is done, that's already a problem. You're killing innovation right there. Right? There's a better way to do things. And so they hack their way. They have more hackathon than lunch meetings, and they're so good at it. Right? The new applicants are told to be less afraid of making mistakes, less afraid of losing opportunities by moving too slowly. Ship fast is something that they look at. They're constantly tweaking things. Thousands of engineers are constantly tweaking their product, right? And that's the mindset that he has created, of this hack away mindset, right? Even the address is called hack away. All right, so it's fantastic how it works. So if things have been around for like a month, 2 months, 3 months, it's time to break things. It's time to break things and fix things, because there's always a better way to do that. So done is better than perfect. Again, there's two things. One is a perfectionist approach of Apple and Amazon, but Mark and Facebook, it's more about just getting things done, iterating and putting things out there, experimenting, seeing in real time how their users react. There are always 2 billion people on Facebook, so they get instant feedback and data. If this little change here on our wall, if this little change on our feed, this thing here on our ad product, if you do this, if you do that, it's constantly getting feedback, and they're doing it on a massive scale, right? And they call themselves a startup of startups. Now, I want you to think about a couple of things here. We're coming to the end. We have about 10 more minutes of content, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A. But what are some of the things? What are the things now, again, to encourage people to look at your processes and systems and look at the things that you've been doing for a few years? What are some of the things that you might want to think about addressing from a change perspective? What are some of the things you might want to say, okay, it's time to look at this. It's time to do this. It's time to change. So write down a couple of things. I'll give you a minute to reflect on that and say, okay, what are some of the things I can do now that I can look at that have been in process for a while, I think, and a while is anything from a year plus, or that you might have, right? Although some companies look at like 6 months, but let's just say a year that you've been doing now for over a year that need perhaps a relook, a rethink. I don't want to go too deep into this, but the essence of everything we're talking about here is company culture. And all these highly innovative companies have built something very powerful into their DNA, which is their culture. And it starts with right at the beginning, from the time they onboard their people to the time they evaluate and do things, all the way up to the way they exit them. It's part of who they are. And innovation is really integral to what they do, and it's baked into their DNA. So it's very, very important to be to create that culture, to be able to empower people, psychological safety, empower them to fail, give them the time, all these different ideas that you picked up from this session today, it all needs to be sort of baked into your company culture. And this is how you let people know that we are an innovative company. So don't tell me that you're innovative unless you're doing at least about 30-40% of these things that we spoke about today, right? And most companies are not. They like to say they are, but in reality, they're not. And this is what I do. I help companies really design an amazing corporate culture. We have a process that fast tracks it all the way down from top management, changing mindsets. And I know a lot of you have mentioned this, it needs to be done from the top. But truly, you start with that. In your DNA, you are experimental, your company values and what you value, how you celebrate, how you reward people, how you praise people. All that needs to be part of your innovation culture, right? So it's there. Now, again, I just want to do a very quick sort of, not a poll here, but which of these, just look at these issues. Which of these here, and I've only listed 10 here. Quickly, give me the numbers in the chat. Which of these issues do you think are company culture related? And these are all innovation issues. Which of these are company culture related? You can write down the number in the chat, okay? If it's 1 or 5, which one do you feel? Number 5, number 10. I'll just wait for a couple of more. Have a read through and give me the numbers. Which one do you think? Is it 1, 2, or 3, or 1, 5, and 7, or whatever? Yeah. Okay, I think you guys get the gist here. Yes, they're all of these. And a lot of people don't see this. A lot of people don't see it, right? All of these things, and there's a lot more. All of these things tie back to your company culture. All of these things come back to your culture. All these innovation issues point back to the culture of the company, my friends. So yeah, it was a little trick question.
Andy Grove.
Okay, so how does this happen, like in real world? And somebody sent me a link to this, and I thought this was fantastic. We're so impacted by COVID today, so many businesses, and massively impacted. And one of the businesses was Airbnb, right? People are not traveling. With people not traveling, what is the relevance of Airbnb? Yes, there's domestic tourism and all that, but a large portion of their business is international travel. They're coming from around the world. But do you sit back and you take it? No, because if you're Brian Chesky and innovation is at the core of your mindset of the company, this is what you do. So a little wonderful little chat here between Simon Sinek, and Simon Sinek would start with the Y, and he's interviewing Brian here, and have a lovely little chat about what they did. But it didn't happen because it happened, it doesn't happen organically. The company is resilient, right? Agile, and they have the right culture for this. But see what happened here.
Andy Grove, one of the founders of Intel, and he said, bad companies are destroyed by a crisis. Good companies survive a crisis, but great companies are defined by a crisis. I wanted us to be that third bucket. And you know what? So much of it's mindset. If you think you're going to win, if you think that this is going to define you in a positive way and you're going to learn something from it and it's going to make you stronger, it kind of happens, right? Like so much of your mindset of the leader becomes the psychology of the organization. And that psychology really becomes a collective consciousness that, man, it becomes real. Mm-hmm. And so that was the thing. And we said every single opportunity is a moment we have to pivot, move fast. So what actually happened was, first of all, you have to have the mindset, a mindset of hope, of optimism, of resiliency, that we're going to get through this. And now we're going to get through this, but every one of these crises is going to lead to a new point of innovation. Let's look for moments. Mm-hmm. And the moment happened. We, with social distancing, we had to shut down in-person experiences. Airbnb's known for homes, but we also have 3-hour activities that you can book with people all over the world, do really cool activities. They got paused. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, we started doing listening sessions with our host. It's important, by the way, to listen and be curious. And some of I don't think it's much in life you have to have ideas as much as be a receiver for ideas. Mm. Like, it's not my job to have an idea, and it's not our job for any of us to have an ideas. I think we have to be receivers. We're like radio antennas. Like, we just got to get on the right signal, and they'll tell you, people will tell you things. Mm. And people told us, they want a host, but they can't do it in person. Can they offer them online? Mm. And at first I thought to myself, no, you can't offer them online. We're about connection and connections in the real world. And I thought to myself, well, if that's the case, there's not going to be a lot of connection anytime soon. Right. So I quickly realized, and we quickly realized, yeah, we should get in on this. And within 14 days, we pivoted the entire product line to offer online experiences. So now you can we have 800 experiences, 200 Olympians. So we did a 9-year partnership with the Olympics, 200 Olympians, including Jackie Joyner-Kersee, you may remember from 1988 Olympics, and then we had Tony Hawk did an experience. So they did these like activities, and you actually can meet them and go on kind of remotely be on experience with them. And so we did that. But I think so much of it as turning on a dime. I never wanted to just be focused on survival. If you focus survival, that's probably all you're going to get. And so I said, I don't want to focus on survival. And so while all these other companies I saw were like kind of, like just shuttering their businesses and just in defensive mode and preservation mode, I think preservation mode is a very dangerous place to be. And I think the more resources a company accumulates, the more they start worrying about losing things. Like a parent with an overactive amygdala, worrying if the child is going to and putting the helmet on the child before they go outside. You're worried something's going to happen. And at some point, they never live their life.
Right.
Like, you got to the same thing with a company. You got to be concerned, but not so concerned that you protect the company from itself and you're afraid to do anything and you're just preserving resources. And actually, that's the worst possible thing, ironically, for shareholders.
Right.
Shareholders need the company to grow.
Right.
And so this weird obsession sometimes that some people have with serving shareholders, it's not in the shareholders' best interest. They need companies to create value, and therefore they need to be focused on doing new things people love. That's what needs to happen to create value. Andy Grove.
That's a massive pivot. That is a massive pivot that they did. 800 experiences they offer now. And these are real time. I mean, you can go into virtual experiences and meet Olympians, especially because the Olympics is coming up. And what grew from just 6 or 7% of their revenue now is 30 to 40% of their revenue. Can you imagine that? So overnight, they pivoted their product line. And it happened because of the right culture, because of the right people there anyway. Now, oftentimes, this is your plan. You want to go from A to B, but in reality, you will go up and down. So it's never going to go in a linear way, right? And so very quickly, I want to spend a little quick time here, just one couple slides on building momentum. Now, oftentimes we launch an innovation product. We launch the innovation. It could be an idea, it could be a new product, could be so many different things. And everybody gets excited. And then over time, it just peters off, right? Within 18 months. So we need to now maintain the momentum. We need to maintain that momentum. How do you do that? And again, a lot of it has been already touched on, but I want to reiterate a couple of things here. Is about getting, celebrating a product that takes a while. Innovation doesn't happen overnight, and it might take anywhere between 3 to 18 months, depending on what scale it is, right? Depending on what scale. But so how do you get that over the hill? And very quickly, I like to talk about a flywheel analogy, and this is from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, right? You start nudging it. You launch with a powerful story, you have an idea, you take there, but then how do you get momentum? So let's use the analogy of a flywheel. We got to push this wheel, and once it builds momentum, it maintains momentum. So how do you do that? You celebrate with a story of change. You let people know why we're doing this, right? And then you shatter those walls of resistance one by one, because you empower people to fail, to experiment, to do things. You solicit, you involve as many people as you can in the project, so there's ownership and buy-in in that, right? You make sure there's enough resources that is there, and you have the budget for it to do. And then you celebrate. This for me is the most important thing. You celebrate short-term wins. Like there are meetings, weekly meetings about that project. You let people know, okay, here's what we're doing. Here's the transformation. Here's what this one learned, right? Celebrate transformation journeys, how people did this. What was the customer feedback from that experiment? Wow, share those things. Empower people to fail, we learn, right? And again, you have rumors, you have things going wrong, but you replace that with facts, right? And then you make sure you have your budget and resources for that. Now we can go deeper into those things, but again, you have a roadmap, you have a plan. You know that this is going to take this much time, and you're probably going to lose momentum and excitement, but you as the innovation driver need to build. You need to be that catalyst. You need to be that igniter of innovation, and keep that going as you move through by celebrating quick wins, by helping people, saying it's okay to fail, and really moving that needle to where it needs to be. Okay. So with that, my friends, I think we can move on to get your questions ready. We're coming to the end. I just want to, you can take a picture of the slide. How do you measure? I get this question a lot sometimes in these talks. How do you measure innovation? Well, there's several ways you can do that. Number of new ideas that are generated. You divide your revenue by, you look at your innovation rate, which is your revenue share of innovations, divided by your total turnover, and you can see how much of that has come from new ideas. You look at feedback. If you're an F&B, you can look at your customer feedback, your revenue that's generated with new things, you know, how many your customer loyalty, your churn rates, all these things, right? So number of new ideas implemented and internal, external perception of your company. Look at Glassdoor. Do people think about you as an innovative company? You have several different social media portals that'll let you know. So here's a few ways you can measure that, tangible ways you can measure innovation. All right. So with that, my friends, I think we can I can start opening it up for questions. We have tools. So while we get the questions going, I've asked you to reflect at various points in this class, but I'm sure there's one or two key takeaways for you, and this is a good opportunity to do that. So what are the things today that you will look at your company and say, okay, here's what I want to change, here's what I want to keep, maybe it's still working, and I want to add to it. So I use this tool with my clients, personal reflection tool. So what will I keep, chuck, or I'll give you a minute just to fill in these few things here. What is something that's working that you probably keep? What are some things you're going to chuck out that you won't do anymore? And what are some things you're going to change and add? So I'll give you like a couple of minutes to think about, reflect on this, because it's about doing now. It starts now, right after this. So you're going back and you don't want to say, okay, this was a great, I attended this 2-hour talk and it was fantastic, but I'm not doing anything. No, take action now. This is something that you need to do right now with yourself, right, in your company, as a team leader, as a founder, or you know, or you could be working in your own, you know, as an owner. What is it that I need to do right now to be able to empower innovation in my people, right? So it starts here. All right, I'm looking at your questions. I'll get to each one of those. Good stuff. You can start populating the questions. You have neither best practices or new experiment initiatives. So you start somewhere, right? You gather your team and think about, okay, how are we going to do this now? So like I said, you can start with putting a goal for everybody in the company and say, but before you introduce it, you need to let people know that now we're going to be putting a goal for everyone and you're going to be evaluated based on this. How many things have I tried this year? How many things have I failed at? You're going to try a simple thing and work with your team and say, what is a good number to start if you're just starting with that? New experimentation initiatives. Yeah, so you're going to say every meeting, we're going to open up our meeting with some new ideas. Set up the agenda for the meetings. What are you going to discuss? Okay, it's going to be a brainstorm around how we can evolve our product or how we can do this, right? And ask people to come in with stories of other companies. So you start seeding this. You start seeding this already in your company. Yeah, so that's one question, good one. So again, business tsunami coming. You want to ride that wave. You don't want to be engulfed with it. Right? You want to ride that wave. And innovation, actually, a lot of businesses. And Brian Chesky said something very powerful. He says, great companies are defined in a crisis. You don't want to just survive. You want to thrive. Crises are where some of the best companies were started in, right? Crises today push you out of your comfort zone and make you really want to do things differently because you've been putting things on the back burner for so long. You never got to them. Now is the time to do it, right? So don't be engulfed by this tsunami that's coming. Ride it. Be that surfer on top with your business, right? Make innovation real, make it work, empower your team to try new things and see what happens. Wonderful, wonderful changes. And slowly over time, it becomes the way you are as a company, right? I'll share very quickly here about my work. As a business transformation, there's 3 different products that I offer. The first tier is company culture transformation. This was unattainable. This was unachievable by many companies, but I've made it tangible. I have a process and a system that I can get you going very quickly in terms of how you can build a powerful culture and change your mindset from top down. Done this for several clients, and it's been just remarkable, tremendously fulfilling to see how companies rise to their true potential, reach their full potential, and rise to greatness. The other part part I do is 3D deep branding. As a branding expert and having built multi-million-dollar brands for the companies that I work, I help companies tell powerful brand stories and really build tremendous brand value. And I've also helped companies deliver very deep customer experience transformation. All these are funded, so you can get up to 80% funding today, which is great news, right? So I'm a certified consultant, and I help companies achieve that. So really happy to help any one of you. We're going to have more conversations after that. Very quickly, some of the companies where I've helped, these are from big multinationals to startups, a range of them, cross industries, it doesn't matter. So happy to have those conversations and listen, there's no obligation. I know it's COVID time, so I'm happy to help you. Just reach out to me and I'm happy to help you, give you ideas. And several of you already know that I'm just there. Just have a chat and we can connect. Here's how to get in touch with me. This is my website. It's Transform and Transcend, the name of the company. My email right here, ashok@transformandtranscend.co. That's my LinkedIn. I'd like you to join the channel on YouTube. I put out a lot of content on a weekly basis, very deep insights that I gather from the market that will help you run your business more effectively. So do subscribe to YouTube, Transform and Transcend, and Facebook, Transform and Transcend as well. I would love you to like that page and become part of that community. So I hope it's been a valuable time. I'm going to get to your questions very quickly now. So there you go. So let me just spend the next 15 minutes or so answering all your questions. Seems like R&D and tech is driving innovation. No. I think that's the problem we have. Why should it be R&D and tech? Everyone in the company should be empowered to innovate. It can't be a department. It has to be the whole company. That's what we need to change. Low-hanging fruit that we can get started. Yes, you start by making it part of your culture, right? You let people know. Go there and say, listen, we're going to start small. We're going to start breaking things, experimenting. Experimentation is part of who we are. What is the last time we did something different in our company? And it starts with that first meeting, that mindset, letting people know. Put it in your goal setting. Make sure it's a goal for everybody, right? You're going to evaluate people based on how many things they're challenging themselves, how many new things. And it's small things. I changed my process. I found that we were so inefficient and I did this. Oh, that's wonderful. Tick that box. Done. Small things. Start with small, quick wins, and then you grow from there. Slowly, your mindset begins to change. When people fail at something, celebrate those failures. Call them in the meeting. In that meeting, said, John tried something and we lost $4,000, but we learned this. Well done, John. Right? Celebrate that. People know it's okay to fail. Start with those small things. Our cultures are not accepting and receptive to, yes, a lot of companies are. They are, unfortunately, and penalized for it. We need to change that. I mean, without that, it's not going to change. So you need to work at it. You need to, and that's a lot of my work is changing mindsets. That's what I do. I help these companies because I talk to business leaders, say we're innovative, and I said, show me the last 3 years. How much of your revenue has come from new ideas? And they go, no, yeah. Okay. Then I said, let me have a chat with your people. And I asked the people, do you feel it's this company you're safe to share ideas? I do a survey and I check and I said, and what comes out is shocking, right? And I said, don't tell me you're innovative. It's not happening in here. Let's work with this. We can make this happen. So that's part of the culture transformation work that I do. I help them get to where they want to be. Every company, it's not a nice to have anymore. It's a must have. You have to be able to innovate, right? You cannot, what got you here today ain't going to take you to where you need to be. So yeah, I hope I answered that one. How do you influence top management without being part of it? Well, you sound good. You sound smart. After this session, you say, hey, I attended this thing. You send them an email. I want to have a chat with you. Some ideas that came out. You look good. Share this thing with them. Share some thoughts. And here's, I think, how we can make some changes. Listen, every company wants more revenue. Every company wants to grow. So these are ideas that will help your top management get there. We are struggling with some things. We haven't been able to make decisions fast. You have to be open and candid. I like what I heard. This one-way door, two-way door. I think we can make it work. Go and speak to your supervisor. Speak to your management. Let them change. Yeah. Shareholders cannot see beyond immediate profits. Now, the problem here is, and Brian Chesky touched this, don't start with your shareholders. Start with your customers. Your shareholders, will benefit from revenues that come in your company. Never start with how am I going to benefit your shareholders. Keep them in your back burner. Start with your company. Say, what am I doing here that is going to make a difference in people's lives? What is it about my customers that I can make them grow? Your money comes from your customers, my friends. If people are not buying your stuff, forget your shareholders. If people are not buying your stuff from you, you have no revenue, you have no customers, you don't have a business. Start there. Be customer obsessed. Whoever your customers are, B2B, B2C, I don't care. Make that your obsession. Say, okay, what can I make in their lives? What difference can I do? How can I get them to spend more money, become more loyal? What can I do to improve our products and services so that they spend more money? And then you start with that. And over time, you see your revenue coming, your shareholders will be happy. You don't start with your shareholders. That doesn't work. Start with who are you serving? Why are you here? What is the reason for your existence? What's your purpose of your company? Start from those core things and build that out, right? You think Jeff Bezos cared about his shareholders? Amazon was losing money for decades. I mean, there was like 10, 15 years of no revenue. People were scared. And look where they are today, right? Nobody can deny that. Okay. As an SME owner, how can we be comfortable learning from failing and manage? I think there's several examples here that I shared, right? I mean, you have meetings with your teams. You have to let them know that it's okay. Well, that we're slowly going to bring a mindset of change. I want each one of you to look at your processes. You can give them a task. I want each one of you to look at your processes and see how you can do it better, right? There has to be ways. Next meeting, I want some ideas. Come up with brainstorms, each one of you, and then you pick those ideas and you take them to the next level. You try some things might fail. Follow up in the meetings and say, this one didn't work, that one is fine. Make some money, put some money aside, let people know we're about ideas and we want new things. It starts small. To start employees to start having a mindset, I started it by bi-weekly innovation newsletter. Absolutely. You have several portals that you're communicating. If you're a bigger company, you have your newsletters. You say, this is an idea that came from there. Some things did not work, but hey, hats off for trying. Well done, John. Celebrate failures in your newsletters. Let people know that this is a company that is okay with failing, right? And if something's worked, wow, those are great stories. If something translated into your customer numbers or your customer reviews, my God, share those in every meeting. Said, John did this. We tried this little tweak here and look at the result of that. Share those. Fantastic. Okay, great. I think I've covered most of all the other questions. What if your customer's industry is only price sensitive? How can they be? I mean, it's you have to educate people. Then I mean, it's not about the price. The price is irrelevant. Today there are people that are willing to pay more for better customer service, right? I mean, and I think that's going to be one of the key differentiators. That's why I got into it, because I deliver something very unique. I said, how do you create a word of mouth strategy for your business? And that's missing today. Many companies have service excellence. They have all kinds of processes, but quite frankly, it's word of mouth. If people are not giving you positive word of mouth, you have a problem in your business. 95% of decisions to buy a product or service is done by review or referrals, and that is all related to word of mouth. Now, I'm not coming up with this. This is the market research telling you that. So if you don't have a word of mouth strategy for your business, you're missing out on a lot of stuff. And that's exactly what I help companies deliver. It's very new, and very few companies have a word of mouth strategy. So I've designed something very powerful around the customer experience piece that maps out your journey and delivers great wow. And simple things. You don't have to spend a lot, right? Especially if you're an F&B and stuff, this is like gold. It really transforms, creates ultra loyalty, gets your customers to spend with you a lot more. That's what we need. That's really what we need. So don't worry, the price is not something that you go after. People will pay more for better service today. And that's what the research is telling you.